All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, again. I'm Lauren Parsons, Bluegrass Community Foundation's Director of Strategic Initiatives and Communications, and your staff liaison for the GoodGiving Challenge. Thank you for joining us on this gloopy morning for our social media webinar. I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items before we get started. We are recording this webinar, so we will share it with everyone after it's over, so you can revisit the content yourself and share with your team members who couldn't join us today. We also invite your comments and questions. There will be a Q&A portion at the end. So I will be monitoring the Q&A chat feature, so you can just type your questions and submit them in that. And if you see a question that you would ask that somebody's already posed, then you can just like upvote that, and that will bump that up to the top. But we will answer all those at the end. So I will go on and introduce our speakers this morning. First, I'm going to introduce David Caldwell. He is the principal at Balance Creative. He is an experienced design and digital marketing professional with almost 3 decades of experience. He received a BFA in graphic design from Eastern Kentucky University. And in addition to project management, David handles the marketing and business management side of his firm. He began his career as a graphic designer, but migrated to client services, project management, and media services. David still plays an active role in the creative process for his clients, but now he gets just as energized from helping clients determine appropriate marketing strategies and the necessary approach to get them there. Today, he spends most of his time creating and executing digital campaigns for his clients. David has worked alongside many groups, nonprofits, and associations, assisting them with design strategy, membership retention and recruitment, public relations programs, and branding efforts. And then I included David's contact information there, so you can reach out to him after the webinar is over if you have any more questions. Also joining us this morning is Kim Owens. She is a marketing and social media consultant. She has a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Kentucky in journalism and advertising. She has worked in advertising, sales, marketing, and social media in the Lexington area for 25 plus years. As an independent marketing and social media coordinator, she focuses on understanding how businesses and organizations can harness the power of the ever-changing social media landscape to reach end goals. Kim is originally from Glasgow, is married with 2 children in graduate school, and has a rescue hound dog named Elvis. You can contact Kim using that information there. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the webinar over to David and Kim.
Great. Well, let me share my screen here. Oh, Lauren, kick me permission. There we go.
Yeah. No, I think you, sorry. All right. Can you try it now?
There we go. No, it's still you, not working yet.
It says all panelists can share. Sorry, everyone.
Okay, you're fine. Let me see.
There we go.
Okay, let me see if I can get this pulled up then. I was thinking it was already queued up. There we go. You guys can see that? Kim, Lauren, can you see that?
Yes.
Great, great. Well, guys, I'm going to be looking, I'm not being rude. I will look at you, but I'm put my notes off to the side because I don't have a dual screen. So if you feel like I'm not engaging you in the camera, that's because I'm slightly off to the side, but I'll take little breaks. I did want to make a connection between Kim and me before we get started. So Kim and I work on several campaigns together where I pretty much coordinate the paid social media digital marketing campaigns, and Kim helps out with the organic side of the campaign. So she's an independent contractor that Balance Creative uses for those campaigns. So I wanted to make that connection so you can see the fact that we're used to working together. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lauren, for having us today. We're really excited to be here and just share with you some things about social media. And when talking with Lauren and initially discussing the idea of this seminar, we kind of landed on the idea that probably Facebook was the most appropriate to focus on, because that's where most of your organizations put most of the energy in communicating with members and relate to fundraising and just engagement with communities. So we're going to focus primarily on Facebook. There are some principles, of course, as Kim and I dig into the information, that apply to other platforms. So take what you will from those. And again, anecdotally, I think most things that we do here would qualify from an engagement standpoint. So today we are primarily talking about Facebook for Business. And as you guys know, probably 6 or 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, Facebook really turned the corner and moved away from primarily being a online person-to-person social media platform to really engaging with businesses. And so close to the last 8 years, a decade, businesses all across the globe have really stepped up. And even though Facebook has a tendency to trend up and down based on new platforms that get released, it still is the leading dominant social media platform for businesses. And I think it's integral to the success of any business. And so I'm really excited that you guys are tuned in today, learning how to just optimize and engage more. So I'm going to talk through some just overall strategies about Facebook business account, how to use it, how to optimize it. Kim's going to dive in later on about engagement and just tips and tricks for really increasing engagement with your page and with your community. And then I, at the end, will wrap up with some ideas about how to kind of come offline a little bit and promote your Facebook page in more traditional methods, so that just all your communities and all your audiences know that you have a robust, active community on Facebook and they should participate. So let's get going. So first of all, I'm just going to talk through some initial setups of your Facebook accounts, your business accounts, and some of this will be elementary to some of you. Other of you might learn something, so that'll be great. But I think sometimes in a rush to get going on Facebook, we ignore a couple of great opportunities and potentials for your Facebook page. And so the highlighted things on this slide are the areas where I want to spend just a little bit of time on before we move on. So as you're setting up your Facebook page, or you can, if you haven't done this, you can go back and make these edits to your site. I think it's really important, and I'll move my cursor around. When you can, I think it's really important to go ahead and create your short handle for your Facebook page. For instance, on the KBMAs, it's at Kentucky Building Materials Dealers. That's a little bit small for me to see. But so make sure you have a handle that you create. And that way, as you promote that website through all your channels and all your communications, you can quickly refer to that handle. And two things, it keeps you from having to use a long pasted in URL from the browser window. Secondly, it begins to build credibility between this handle and your other social media handles. You don't have to always use the Facebook icon in your materials. You can just say, visit us at, this, and people will kind of start to realize that you've got this branded Facebook identity. The other thing that I was going to mention is make sure right away, and if you don't do this often, go invite your friends to like this page as the admin of the site. I think this is still a weakness in some respects, but Facebook business accounts are still attached to personal admin user logins. I'm not sure when they're going to overcome those boundaries, but for some reason, there's just an algorithm there that's attached to it. So make sure you invite all of your friends as the admin people to follow your pages, and just track along and look often of how many people are following your page. These poor folks, they don't have a lot of followings right now, many people. So, but I'm not their social media coordinator, so that's somebody else's job. But one thing that I was going to talk about is it's real important to, under the About section here and here, you can edit these areas. Make sure you spend time really diving in and creating robust business profiles. Don't just put your phone number and an email address in there, but take the time to write out your mission copy, your goals, your vision and values. You could have a meeting from a small introduction or message from your executive director there's ways to really maximize this bio section. And not only is it just great info for the people attending the site, it becomes very searchable content and organic content. So it's just another way to get people that you might show up in people's results. So just make sure you spend some time and don't just pass by that real quick and think, check that off my list. Spend some time thinking about that as you would for a professional bio or LinkedIn bio and those kinds of things. The next thing I want to talk about a little bit is just consistency in the branding on your Facebook page. Like, there's nothing wrong with this Facebook page, but you've got this big logo, which is brown in the center. Miller Lumber Company, I don't think you're on right now, but if you are, I'm not being critical of your Facebook page. but just think about consistencies, but between your profile image and your header cover image, and use every opportunity to communicate visually with your brand. One thing that people do is they have a tendency for this slide and that slide. People have a tendency to smack their logo, their existing logo, into this shape right here and just hope that it fits. But instead, if you have the through Canva, or if you have creative staff around or marketing staff, take the time to kind of modify your logo into more of an icon format that can go here and really fill up this space so that you don't minimize and create small profile copy. And so again, just take the time to really think about the way this mark works with this mark and this content to build that out as consistency as possible. And then the final thing I'll say about the Facebook setup, business page setup, is that a lot of people don't realize that you can use this space right here. It doesn't have to be a static image. It could be a 15-second looping video. It could be a video about one of your key mark events or milestone events for your organization. And Facebook automatically, I think, Kim, you can confirm, I think will automatically not include the audio on that, but you can have this moving, dynamic, interesting video up there inside that space versus the static image. So that's something just to think about. Moving on, this is really important, and I kind of call it the captain role. For any reason, guys, if you lose my slides during this presentation, just give me a shout out, Kim or Lauren. But you really do need to determine who on your team is going to lead and manage this effort. Oftentimes, if in nonprofit organizations, we have dedicated people, but you also have a lot of volunteers who do a lot. So we can't make any assumptions that somebody else is doing something, and so that you should be doing, or you're doing something that someone else is assuming. So I think it's really important just to dedicate an ambassador, a leader, just a captain of your Facebook effort, and make sure that person's committed to it. The one thing that I'll talk about a little bit later as well is that it takes a lot of effort and patience, and it can't be kind of an add-on to the end of your day or an add-on to the end of your week. It needs to be prioritized. Social media, I guarantee that 80 to 90% of your engagement is through social. So it requires that same kind of commitment, that same kind of dedication. So just make sure you have somebody on that, whether it's designated or official or just volunteer. If someone can own it, if it can be on someone's agenda and be in the back of their mind every day, I think you'll be much more successful just managing your efforts. So we'll talk a little bit about growing your page audience. There's obviously lots of ways to promote your page audience and grow your likes and grow your followers. The more content that you have on a regular basis, that's engaging content, which Kim will get into the kinds of content that works best a little bit later. There's just lots of ways to organically share and invite your followers to like your page. There's also paid like campaigns, which we can get into paid like campaigns a little bit later, or paid campaigns. But also just make sure, like I mentioned earlier about your Facebook handle, make sure you're always using your Facebook icon on all of your materials, that it's a quick reference that you have a Facebook community, you have a Facebook presence, and that people should be going there. And then certainly just make a direct ask for people to follow your social channels and in your email footers that you communicate, in any of your communications, just simple statements like follow us on Facebook. That goes a long way. And if you can include icons that people can link to quickly, that helps a lot. Another important aspect of the Facebook strategy is is defining your target market, to really know who you're trying to reach and how they want to engage you. It's critical for every business to know their ideal customer before getting started on Facebook. And if you're already on Facebook, just think about who you're trying to talk to, what you're trying to say to them, and just visualize that ideal customer or that ideal member, ideal audience member, and what kind of things they want to talk about and hear about. The great thing about Facebook is that you can have multiple audiences. I mean, you can decide based on your content and what you're putting up, who you're trying to talk to. But at the baseline, at the essence of what you do, you know who you're trying to reach, you know who you're trying to talk to, and just think about how that person might want to engage with you. It's also really important to get the tone right of all the content that you put up. I mean, is it serious? Is it serious? Is it funny? Is it philanthropic? Is it cause-oriented, cause action? Just kind of decide your tone and build out your content around that tone. And I think you'll break through and cut through a lot of noise to the person you're trying to reach. So just think about that. Really goes back a lot to the same thing as your audience, but tone can be very important. And as I mentioned earlier, Kim's going to talk a little bit more about tone and engagement in just a few minutes. So now that you kind of talked about defining your target audience, and you need to start talking to them using the posts on your page, as I mentioned before, while you're communicating with your followers, learn to speak like them, learn to think like them, learn to act like them. And again, that doesn't have to be set in stone. That can change from campaign to campaign, from objective to objective, from event to event. So Kim, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you talk a little bit more specifically about content.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I am excited to share with you guys some of the concepts and the tips that I have learned over the last couple of years in optimizing the effectiveness of your social media. And as David said, we concentrate primarily on Facebook because it is the primary social media platform for adults age 25 and over. And so we're going to safely assume for most of the organizations and associations we're dealing with that you're dealing with adults and you want to engage adults. Content is really king. It's important. And these three different categories here of informing, entertaining, and inspiring are really, they're the keys to success for your posts. So I do want to mention that we do know from Facebook itself, from their own analytics that they put out, that most adults are spending 2.5 hours a day on Facebook, which is kind of incredible. People log in the morning before they go to work. They log in sometimes on a morning break, at lunch, an afternoon break, after work, in the evenings, before they go to bed, all day on weekends. So we really want to try to capture this audience that's already there. They're waiting for you. So we want to move them not from this just being passive of scrolling and looking at your content, so which is kind of a passive experience, to an active experience of engaging with it by liking it, commenting on it, and sharing it. Okay, so David, if you'll move on to the next screen. This is is an example of a post that showed up in my feed last week. I had no idea that October the 26th was National Pumpkin Day. So this post informed me that it was National Pumpkin Day. It also was entertaining because it showed me these lovely fall decorations and was kind of a distraction from all the political posts and the negative COVID information that were being fed constantly. It's also, the entertainment factor is really important right now because people can't do the things that they normally do to entertain themselves. We're not going to concerts. We're not going to fall festivals. We're not doing the things we normally do. So if you can provide some entertaining content, it will get absorbed and it will get acted on at this time. I really wanted to point out these little blue circles here in the lower left-hand corner. That's going to show your likes and your reactions, those little hearts. And then in the lower right-hand corner, those are comments and shares. So these are things that people actively engaged with this post. Okay, and then David, on to the next one. Also on the same day, another National Pumpkin Day post. And by the way, there is a website that you can go to if you're just looking for some kind of fun content, you don't really have anything else to share that day. There is the nationaldaycalendar.com website. They have over 1,500 different days of something. So you could just get in there and look and see if there's something that would be fun, might be relevant to something with your organization, but it gives you a little creativity sometimes for posts. So on this particular post, I want to talk about a word that David brought up a little bit, algorithms. If you are, just entrenched in the social media world, you know that the algorithms, they're simply the mathematical equations that Facebook uses in order to address recurrent problems. So the most recurrent problem that Facebook has is spam. They're trying to eliminate spam from your feed because that's what you get annoyed at, and then you just completely get off Facebook. So the current Facebook algorithms, they value comments, reactions, and shares over likes. So anything we can do to get people to comment or to share or to make one of those little emojis there, the little hearts, rather than just the thumbs up like button, that Facebook values that more. And so that will move this post further up into people's feed and more people will see it. So if you, if you're just starting out, a good idea is just to look through your own personal Facebook feed and look at some posts of like businesses or like organizations and see the types of posts that they, yes, I see your question. I will absolutely get the link to that for you. That someone asked if we could get the link to the nationalcalendarday.com. So we will get that for you. So to finish that thought, you can look at these other pages and see once just by what we're looking at here, how many comments and shares. But to get a little further into that, if you are the business, you're the administrator of the business profile page, we want to get into analytics. So David, we're going to go to the next screen here. Okay, so when you log on to your business page, this business profile page, you can click on the Insights tab, which is right up there in the top in the middle, and you'll be able to see this report that shows all of the posts that you have recently had. This shows the reach, it shows the engagement level, so it really lets you know how effective the post was with its content. So you can look at these and go, oh, this is a great post, we need to replicate this again. Or you can look at one and go, this was terrible. Well, I don't want to waste another post doing this because no one reacted to it. The only caveat with this, and I always advise clients, is to weigh these reports against your end goals. So if your end goal, let's say if you're a nonprofit or an association, you may have put up a post because you're trying to drive people to your website for membership or volunteerism or donations. And you may have had an uptick. You may have gotten, 10 new memberships, and the only thing that you have done was this Facebook post. So it's tied to that, but your analytics look terrible for that post. So just always weigh your end goals against your analytics. And that just means being informed. Because a lot of times people who are doing the social media for an organization are not involved in the other ends of the business. So you kind of need to make that your business. You need to go to those people and say, hey, how's registration going for this event? How's membership going? Those kind of things. So I have personally been very fortunate to be involved in the social media, then also the sales and promotions for an organization all at the same time. So I could see what was going on and be able to make adjustments and tweaks as you go along. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of the, the nitty gritty of the content. Okay, so for content, the really tried and true things are down at the bottom here. The photos, fill in the blanks, contest, and videos. So I mentioned earlier that there was a post for the pumpkin day and it asked a question. And one of the questions was, have you carved your pumpkin yet? So that post really used two of these tried and true categories. It posed a question, but it also asked, there was another one that asked you to post the picture of your carved or decorated pumpkin. So that gets people engaged. That moves them into that, you know, active stance of being able to post something into the comments, which goes back to your algorithms of increasing your reach. So when you're dealing with questions, try to keep it really simple. Do a yes or no question. Do a one-word question. Try to make things where there won't be any negativity. So, for example, one day last week, I saw a post in my feed that was for an insurance company, and it said, "It feels like a great day for a hot bowl of chili. What's your favorite condiment with chili? Just one." And so it was kind of a fill in the blank and a question. So people could only post one word, lots of crazy answers of what people eat with their chili, which was entertaining. But just something simple like that and fun. It can be seasonal, it can be lighthearted. You want to stay away from things that are controversial. I always advise people to stay away from politics, if at all possible, on their business pages. So, then we're going to move on to photos. So photos, I don't have to tell you that photos are, yeah, it's okay, David. Photo, we can come back to the other screen for just for a second. Yeah. So because Facebook is a visual medium, photos are, the primary thing that people post. And photos are super easy for us to do now. Most iPhones and Android phones shoot in high resolution. We have editing tools on our phones. You can download more advanced editing apps on your phone. If you have that in-house or you have someone who can do that, you can add text to and copy to your photos. Another thing that some associations and businesses like to do is to hire a professional photographer to do a shoot that has a lot of images that look similar in color and content, and that's going to speak to tone, which David's going to talk a little bit about later. But that gives you a library of photography to pull from for your content. You can always use clip photography, which is something that you can download. And then just real briefly for fill in the blank, those are usually something really, fun, like my favorite teacher was, or something like that, where you let people engage with that. And then with contests, my advice to a contest is to keep them simple. Don't draw them out too long. Usually a couple of days or a week is the longest that you would want to have for a contest. And people love to win anything. So if the world ever goes back to normal and we have events and luncheons and concerts again, people love to win tickets to events. But it also can be something as simple as some of your swag, like coffee mugs or water bottles or any of the kind of thing that you might have. People just love to win things. Okay, so we're going to move on to video. All right, so this is a screenshot of a video that showed up in my feed. And the main thing I want to point out here is you see in the lower right-hand corner there that the sound is muted. So 70% of all Facebook users are scrolling through their feed with the sound muted. So it's really important if you're going to use preloaded video, which is what this is, it's not live, it's preloaded, that you load your video with the closed captioning enabled. So that allows people wherever they are, if they're like, for instance, I was in the living room with my family when I saw this, so the television was on, I wasn't going to activate the sound. People do this everywhere. They're doing this in traffic. They're doing this, in airports, everywhere. So to get the most out of your video, make sure that your content has closed captioning when you load your videos. Another really important thing to know that relates to your analytics, excuse me, is that when you have video, people are scrolling. If they come to your video and they hover over it for a minimum of 10 seconds, that counts in your analytics as an impression. So you want to make sure that your most important content is at the front of the video, because people are going to see that first. And secondly, if your content is really good in that first 10 seconds, they may stay with you to the completion of the video. And that's really what you want them to do, because you want them to share it after they had completely viewed it. People are less likely to share a video that they have not completely watched themselves. So you want to have good content and engaging at the front end. And then the end goal is to get them to share the video, which really helps you with your reach and your analytics. Okay, so next slide. This is we just talked about preloaded video. Now we're going to talk about live events with Facebook. So this was a couple of weeks ago when Dr. Burks was at UK and speaking. This is a screenshot of that live event. So you can see all those little likes and hearts, those emojis going up there. Those are the people that, as this event was starting, they were logging in, and that's basically them just raising their hand going, hey, I'm here, I'm attending. And then they can also make comments here. So Facebook Live is not new, but it has drastically increased since the advent of COVID, because people can't attend events in person. So Facebook Live is exactly what it says it is. It is a live video feed in real time of whatever your event is. So what's so great about Facebook Live is that it gets 10 times more comments, which you can see right down there, than the preloaded video that we saw in the previous slide. And users will watch Facebook Live 3 times longer than they will a preloaded video. So with that being said, we have become people with short attention spans. So even though live events, what you really want to shoot for is a maximum of 15 to 20 minutes, just because users they've been accustomed to being able on YouTube and also on preloaded videos on Facebook of being able to fast forward through content, and they can't do that when you're live. So you want to keep the content shorter to keep their attention span. And if you can, offer them a reward at the beginning that they're going to get at the end. So let's say you're going to announce a contest winner, or you're having a pledge drive and you want to announce those totals. Tell them on the front end, this is what we're going to do at the end. So they'll stay with you until the end of it. And then the other nice thing about Facebook Live is it can be posted for viewer for later. So if you have a great event, you want to share that, it will get viewers on the back end as well who are not able to attend the live event. Okay, so I just said 15 to 20 minutes. However, David, let's go to the next slide. Sometimes there are live events that can't be relegated to 15 or 20 minutes. And this is an example. The American Heart Association did a live event where they did CPR and first aid training, because that's very difficult for people to do in person right now. So this is an example of that. And one of the things that I wanted to post or to really point out here is that when you're doing a Facebook Live event, it's really important to have someone who's shooting the video, but also someone who is available to respond to live comments. So you can see here, this person said, hey, how do I get this information? And they were able to respond in real time to them. This also applies in responses, and I just kind of want a sidebar on that. It's really important on your social media. This would be Facebook reviews, and I would expand that even out into Google reviews, wherever people might be reviewing your business or your association, that you respond. once people have engaged with you, you have a relationship with them, and you need to, particularly with live events, you want to act like, you would respond to them as if they were there in person. So it's really important to, go ahead and say something to them. If there happens to be a negative comment or a negative review, I always advise clients, stay positive. The best thing to do is to provide them with contact information for the person who can help resolve their issue. And that stays professional, it stays positive, because this is all in a public forum. And the last thing you want to do is get into a back and forth with someone, about an issue. So we're going to go to the next screen. This is the same event, same Facebook Live event. And I just wanted to point out here, this was a really active event. So you can see how many shares and heart emojis here that people loved it. So I just wanted to, point out to this that you can look at other posts like this, other live events, see how they were attended. And that can help you in developing live events for your organization or association. So we're coming to the end of my part of the presentation, and I just wanted to point out a couple of changes in the social media landscape. So we've mentioned that the impact COVID has had on social media usage generally, but the best figures we have from Facebook is that there has been a 10% surge in the last 12 months. A lot of that came since April. So 10% is a lot. So if you were a company and you had 10% growth in a year, that's a lot. Or, as an organization, if you had a 10% uptick in charitable giving, that's a lot. So in this world, it's significant too. What that means for us is the audience is bigger, and that's great. But it also means that the space is more crowded. So with people spending more time online, the bad news is your messaging and your methods have to be completely on point for them to get pushed through and seen and heard. But the good news is your target market is there. They are there waiting for you to inform them and entertain them and inspire them. So with that, I will turn things back over to David so he can tell you exactly how to build your page and your post to do that.
Thank you, guys. I had muted my mic, so hopefully you can hear me. So one thing I want to add to what Kim said is that ironically, there's been several times over the last few years. Now, this hasn't happened as much in the last year and a half, but I've actually worked with clients before who are just dipping their toe into the social media space, particularly Facebook, and not so much associations, but private companies. But this is just something to think about. People really feel a pressure to be engaged and on Facebook in a real robust way. But I've had many clients say to me, we need a Facebook presence, but can we disable the ability for people to comment? And I'm like, what is the point? It's a social media platform, and you can't have the best of both worlds. So I think Kim's notes and comments about engaging with transparency and positivity is absolutely perfect, because if you're going to be on social media, hence the name social, you're going to have to react. And I know that you guys don't have problems with that, but there is a fear level to negative comments and things like that. So I think some of those thoughts that Kim had were great.
David, can I jump
yes.
in there and just say
sure.
one thing?
Yes.
Comments, absolutely, but you do have the option of turning off reviews on Facebook.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing. If you don't want that and don't have to
Sure.
worry with that, you can turn those off. But yeah, you do need to let people comment, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you have the ability, as most of you know, I'm sure, have the ability to hide comments that have profanity and those kinds of things. But all right, moving on. So thank you, Kim, for that great information. Hope you guys was able to take away some great tips and tricks. With Kim in the trenches on this every day, she knows how to massage all this content and keep it moving. So what I want to talk a little bit about is, great, you have a Facebook page, you have you've got it up there, it's successful, but it's kind of like the old Kevin Costner movie, if you build it, they will come. Well, no, they won't come. I mean, they might discover you, but they're just not going to actually find you. So you have to be very intentional about the promotion of your social media channels, particularly Facebook. So remember, as I mentioned before, it's a long-term investment. Successful social media marketing takes time, hard work, and patience. So continue building your page and maintaining strong relationships with your followers. And remember, those people who, they might they might land on your page and not engage, but eventually when they feel a level of trust and rapport built up with your organization, they will engage and begin to comment and really follow you, the community online. So the next thing I want to talk about is sticking to a schedule. When I do talk to my clients, one of the most common questions I get is, how often should I post? When should I post? How often should I post? And really, it varies for your organ. It varies from organization to organization. Kim referenced her insights and analytics earlier on your Facebook page. You can go in there and you can look and see. And it's pretty intuitive, really, it is. But if anybody has any questions about a deep dive into analytics or need any coaching on how to read that, I'd be glad to help, or Kim would. But you can go onto your page and you can see when most people are visiting your page, what day of the week, what time of the day, and those kinds of things. So definitely lean into that. But as a page manager, the worst thing that you could do is be very sporadic. Two posts on one day, 4 on another, nothing on Wednesday, and then disappear for 2 or 3 weeks and then come back. So set up a schedule with times during the day when you want to post, and just begin to kind of develop rhythms for content, rhythms for what you're trying to say. A lot of you are involved with milestone events or campaigns that would give you an opportunity to schedule and create social media calendars in advance. And you can do those kinds of things. I like to have a rule of thumb where I advise my clients to have a social media calendar. It takes care of the business part of it. And those are very strategically located, positioned during different days and times of the week. That's kind of your static content that you have to get out there. And then I like to balance that with kind of fun, organic content. And like Kim referenced that website link earlier that has national days. So I kind of have the serious content and less serious content, so you can just kind of keep a regular rhythm of presence. I was going to share with you a campaign that Kim and I are working on right now for Jubilee Jobs, a local nonprofit here in town. And November 1st, we start our fundraising event in lieu of their November event, which has now been canceled because of COVID. So we're doing a full month fundraising event. And so this is a document that Kim and I share. It's very simple. I'm sure you guys have things like this, but if you don't, then just learn from it. But this is where Kim and I have on the left, we have our post dates, and is it scheduled or not? And the post content, the call to action. What do we want people to do with the post? What links to visit to? What we're asking people to do? What graphics, visuals, or video are tied to the content? And then these are notes about the actual post content, and through Google Drive and other shared resources, Kim and I go back and forth on the copy that's for that post. And so even a simple Excel spreadsheet like this can go a long way to helping your organization create their content and stay on the same page. And then in addition to Excel, there's several free online software platforms, that social media calendar templates out there. If you Google social media calendar template, you'll find all kinds of great examples that, quite frankly, visually it would look a lot more stunning than this, but this gets the job done. So, and I use this type of format over and over again for our clients. The next thing that I want to talk about is measuring the success. The great thing about Facebook and any social media platform and digital marketing is that it's so measurable. I love traditional media. I love TV. I love print. I love all that stuff. But it's really hard to measure some of that. And the great thing about digital marketing and social marketing is it's immediately measurable, and you can change, you can optimize and change direction if you need to. So Now that you've kind of defined or talked about defining your target audience and using the proper tone in your post with engagement, as Kim referenced, and posting the kind of updates that get the most engagement and sticking to a schedule, now what? What are you supposed to do to keep this platform moving forward? So I would like to just remind you that to sit back a little bit and evaluate what works. Dig into your analytics, dig into your insights, and take some time, maybe once a month, to explore your page's insights and identify what worked and what didn't work through your insights and your post evaluations. I can't tell you what strategies are best for your organization because every organization and every Facebook page is different. But obviously, if a post gets zero engagement, something about that content or the length of the post or the assets that were used in conjunction with it, photographs, videos, questions, polls, something about that didn't work. And so just make some adjustments and look for the posts that were more successful and replicate those approaches. I'm going to skip forward a slide. Yeah. Also, something that Kim referenced earlier is that in Facebook business pages, you can actually go sign up for pages to watch. So all of you as organizations can add pages to watch, and you can just really model what is working for their pages as far as post content, post length, post frequency. This is a great feature, pages to watch, and it helps you be inspired by what other people are doing. And this is just another slide, a dig down on some of the things that you can look at inside your analytics if you're not familiar with that. So moving on, I want to talk a little bit more about expanding your Facebook reach and just really building it out and building followers and additional content. So really, you can try some of the same cultivation strategies that are used by Fortune 500 companies all over the world. Those are openness, access, positivity, networking, sharing of tasks. These are things that work when you're dealing with your Facebook channels. Openness and it's just showing what goes on inside your organization, being transparent and letting people feeling like they're being a part of the nonprofit organization they're giving to and supportive of. So just be open with your content. And as Kim mentioned earlier, be positive. Efforts to make a customer's experience enjoyable and pleasant always work. And assurances, making followers feel that their concerns are important, that they're being heard, and they're an important part of your organization from a volunteer's perspective or a membership engagement perspective. So just always assure them that they are important to your organization's success. Networking is just showing shared interest with followers and fans and putting up the kind of stuff that they're interested in. And you can do that through polls and questions every so often to find out, what kind of content do they want? And just really just a matter of staying engaged, being open. The top 3 strategies used on Facebook for Fortune 500 companies, and certainly would work for you as well, that is the openness, the access, and positivity. Also, an important thing to think about is when to post. Now, as Kim referenced earlier, because the world is currently turned upside down right now and people are online all the time, it used to be that the most popular times to post was between 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. and that 20% of the more receive better engagement. I would say as a rule, that's still true. I do think that there have been some nuances, but try to investigate peak times or non-peak times to post so that you're not competing with everybody else's message. Like we have a couple of clients that we have their post on 7 p.m. on Thursdays, way after the business closes for the day, but they get really high engagement because like Kim said, people are after dinner and those kinds of things, and they're sitting around looking for ways to make it to bedtime. So also something important that you guys can do is you don't have to feel like all your photos and your content has to be buttoned up and totally professional. Share behind the scene photos. Like if you're doing events and fundraisers and your nonprofit organization is doing fun things out there, kind of get out from behind the camera and show what's happening behind the scenes with volunteers and the packing and distribution of materials. Just the fun things that show the inner workings and the behind the scenes of your organization. Members and supporters of your nonprofit love to see the humanness of your organization. So just think about ways to put up interesting, not so polished content that really helps explain the mission and the vision of your organization. And then, as Kim referenced earlier, always engage your community with questions. The more that you can invite them to participate, the better. And then just real quickly, I want to go through some additional ways that maybe people don't think about to promote their Facebook page. Just obviously use your current network of your supporters and businesses and partners and alliances and followers, and just email them. Make sure that in your email footers, you have links to your social media. I referenced that earlier. And, add follow, make sure you have the obvious Facebook icon buttons on your website and in all your communications, like on your letterhead, your business cards, your brochures, your signage. Make sure you're using your social media icons and or your social media handles so that people know you have additional community for them to be a part of. Don't assume that people know you have an active Facebook page. Never assume that. Invite them to participate. Like Kim mentioned, social media has become, in lieu of actually getting together, that's where people are finding community, and they may not even know that you're on there updating them every day. So just, quite honestly, just ask them to join you. I did want to spend a little bit of time at the end of this talking about paid Facebook campaigns. We've talked a lot about organic campaigns today. And in fact, I am about ready to launch a paid Facebook game for Bluegrass Community Foundation, promoting GoodGiving Challenge. Very excited. And this is the second year we're able to do this for Lauren. And we're really excited to see those numbers go up through the roof, and just can't wait to report back on some of that. But definitely consider using a paid Facebook campaign. It's much more economical than you might know. And the difference, of course, of a boosted campaign, when we looked at those analytics earlier, is a boosted campaign just increases reach and impressions on that particular post that you may have created. Whereas a paid Facebook ad through the ads manager or through a Facebook business manager account, it's an ad that gets broken down into different modules. Your copy can be edited for length, like you see here in this headline, connect with your perfect audience online. And the ad module gets broken down to all different ad sizes for different devices, desktop, mobile. So it really is a more robust way to reach a lot of different people. The great thing about Facebook ads is you can really drill down on your audiences through demographics, age, income, zip code, interest, preferences, lookalike list where you're targeting people who look like your clients, customers, or audiences. And so running Facebook ads is an easy way to get your page in front of a new audience maybe, and you can really drill down on custom audiences. I want to take just a quick second to demonstrate that and show you, this is a campaign, and I'm using this with permission from John Parker over at Avol. This is the second or third year we have worked on his Dining Out for Life event. And as you know, this year, the Dine Out for Life event had to go virtual, but it was still a huge success. I mean, I'm sorry. The campaign was online, but obviously people could still go out and eat, but not as many people and as much capacity as previous years. What I was trying to say. So this is an example of a paid Facebook campaign we worked on. We spent $1,000 on the paid advertising, paid Facebook portion of the campaign. And during that slightly less than 4 weeks period, you can see from August 10th here to September 10th or 9th, the day of the event, you can see just incrementally slide upwards in activity. So during that 4-week period, we had 3,200 clicks. We reached 34,000 different people. We had 157,000 impressions. And there's always notes about sharing and engagement for the campaign. Like here's our engagement numbers. We had 470 through plays on the video. That probably relates back to the 10 seconds that Kim mentioned on a video. And this showed the sample of the ads. I think in these cases, we had PSAs from LEX18 and Lee and Haley. We also had carousel slideshow type advertising where these photos would slide in and out here. But I wanted to show you an example of the type of impact and reach you can have on budgets. And if any of you want to talk about social media campaigns, paid social media campaigns, we do it day in and day out. I'd love to work with you guys on it. Just reach out to me and let me know, and we can customize packages for you. That's my only sale pitch of the day, I promise. And then finally, I just want to show you how that translated to website visits. So during that 4-week period, you can see that on the landing page for Dining Out for Life, we had over 1,000% increase in the monthly traffic, and this is Google Analytics. And so it was quite effective. And even though we had limited capacity, AVOL was able to hit their budgetary goal for the event. And so I feel really good about that. So gosh, that's it. Thank you guys so much for your time. I know we went maybe a little bit longer, but we'd love to entertain any questions. So Lauren, I toss it back to you.
All right, so let me just open up the Q&A box. Okay, so we have a question, and I'll just read it instead of trying to paraphrase it. So,
Sure.
So this nonprofit says, we do STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math for school-age kids. We are a social enterprise in that we charge for our programs, but we are a 501c3. So while the families we serve are definitely donors, we also have a donor base that is very different from the demographics of the families we serve. Is your advice for building the business end or for the donor end, which may be two different audiences in their case?
Well, I'll take it, Kim, if you want me to.
Okay, go ahead, and I may add to whatever you have to say.
I think it goes back to the ability to have different audiences. Just at a glance, just listening to what the person asked about, I think I would have a tendency to lean in and use Facebook, probably towards the families more, and really engage them and invite them to come into their world and to be a part of their organization. And I probably would definitely talk to donors through Facebook for sure. But I think I would also make sure that I'm communicating to donors through a real robust email program, maybe direct the donors more specifically to the website, and really treat them as a very strategic audience. So I do think that you can communicate with both audiences, donors and families and participants. But my gut is to possibly communicate a little bit more, prioritize the families on social, on Facebook particularly, and engage the donors otherwise. I also may change my mind if I knew what that level of giving was. If it was like an average $45 or $50 gift versus, we're talking thousands of dollars, I might have a different approach. But just hearing that information, that's how I would advise. Kim, do you have anything?
The other thing that I would add to that is that you might just want to think about creating a private closed group on Facebook with your your people who you're considering your core audience, your families that are participating with you, and then use your business Facebook page to reach out to potential donors.
Yeah, that could work.
That might be the other thing. That way, you have that more intimate communication with them, and it is closed so they can ask you questions. That would be my only other thing I would add to that.
Inside that group, they may be willing to share more with their own issues, and they might open up and really build a deeper community within that group. So I love that advice, Kim.
Okay, thank you guys. So there's a question about the videos. So how do you add closed captioning to videos?
You want to take that, David, or you just did that recently, didn't you?
Yeah. So there's two ways. So I wasn't actually familiar with the closed caption feature that Kim mentioned earlier, because in Facebook, and so I learned something today. But what we have done is there's actually a tool within Facebook that, and it's not the closed caption feature, it's a different tool that it's like a filter or a special code that when you upload your video, you can tell it to caption the video, and it adds like you have to kind of double check it and make sure it didn't, usually it's really good and doesn't introduce typos at all. It's very, if the audio is clear, if the narrator is clear. Also, we do that third party. Like if we're producing a video, we might get the producer of that video to add the script at the bottom. And so it's built in. So Facebook doesn't even have to add it for you. So you can talk to that. Like for instance, we do some infographic videos, and I know that the software that gets used there just creates the closed captioning. So I think there's a couple different ways. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly about what feature you click on to get Facebook to introduce that closed caption, but I would love to get an answer to that question and get that back out to you guys, Lauren, about how to add closed captioning to that specific thing. That's a great question, and I want to follow up with that.
Right. Another question. Okay, so this is for an organization that maybe doesn't have somebody on staff that can handle social media, solely, and they have to share that responsibility between a few people. So how would you recommend the best practices for doing that?
Kim, I'll let you take it since you work with a team.
Okay. So first of all, most important thing I have to say about that is it's best to overestimate the amount of time that you are going to need to dedicate this than to underestimate it. I'm going to say most businesses need to allocate 20 hours a week, 20 to 25. So this is full time for some businesses that are super active. But in creating the content and getting it posted and monitoring it. So dividing that kind of thing up, you could maybe have somebody who does all the scheduling. So like David and I, definitely, this is something that we do. I create the content, do the writing of the copy and editing that and getting all of that scheduled within it. Then maybe somebody else is responsible for daily monitoring that once the posts are up, making sure that they look right, that if there's, comments that you're monitoring. But that really kind of comes down, it's hard to answer that within individual businesses,
Yeah.
where your strengths lie, in who's the
add,
most organized. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to add that you also could do it naturally based on organizational structure. Like if there were 2 or 3 people involved in social media, they might have a natural silo. One might be more administrative, one might be marketing, one might be membership engagement, one might be developmental. You could just really let them stay in their own lane, but give them access to those. I still think I would have some kind of master plan or master document that people are working off of, so that that like one day you don't have 8 posts and the next day you have none. We really have to we have to work with our clients sometimes, and we actually ask our customers if they have a lot going on, but we're in the middle of a campaign, I'll ask them to pause and not be sending out so much content in the pipeline that day, because otherwise they can just overwhelm their users in their feeds with all kinds of content. So I would either say, look for natural silos and natural rhythms that occur within that volunteer team, either that or appoint the captain of the ship, and let that person kind of set up responsibilities and schedules and those kinds of things.
The other thing you can always do is use a third-party service, which is exactly what a lot of people do. They use someone else to manage the social media, and they budget for that. So there's not a full-time person, within the organization that's doing that.
And I'd just like to plug that Kim Owens is a great social media coordinator. Sorry, I did sell again. I'm sorry.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so here's another question. How do you feel about EDDM, every door direct mail, and your organization showing up in social media feeds? Also, how do you feel about social media advertising via a third-party company?
Well, the first thing, I'm not familiar with the first thing. So Kim, if you are weigh in.
I'm not familiar with that either. I will. Can they clarify what they mean by third party? Read the last part of the question again, Lauren.
How do you feel about social media advertising via a third party company?
Well, I would consider, I mean, Balance Creative would be a third-party company, and we do social media advertising for people all the time in conjunction with that client's goals and objectives.
Mhm.
So I do think that you have. I'm sure as associations and you get calls
Mhm.
from companies who want to pitch you social media campaigns, digital marketing campaigns, Google AdWords campaigns. You get those kind of calls all the time, and that's fine. Everyone's trying to earn a living, and with digital marketing ramping up and being more prominent today, even than it was 7 months ago, I don't blame them. Just weigh your goals and objectives against what that client is offering. Um, I've encountered this before with my clients, so this is my word of mouth to you guys. If you engage with third-party companies that want to sell you social media or digital marketing services, make sure everybody's on the same page with expectations. Some companies are promising they're going to deliver impressions, meaning traffic to the website. Some companies are going to promise to deliver clicks. Some people are going to promise to deliver phone calls. I recently had, unfortunately, a relationship that did not go well because the expectations that I promised were not met, in the sense that the customer thought that his phone was going to literally ring off the hook. And I was very clear in saying, I can't guarantee your phone to ring. What I can guarantee is thousands and thousands and thousands of new people to your website. So there was no blame there on either end. It was just miscommunication. It happens even after all these years of experience. So I would just challenge your organizations to make sure that the expectations have been clearly communicated about what they get for the money, and are the results what they're willing to pay for, and will that help them achieve their goals? And I can talk more about that with anybody who want to talk about what to look for. But I think that third party is fine. And to be completely honest, you don't even have to work with the person down the street from you. You can work with a person in another state from you. That's what the great thing about our online communities. So just, again, like Kim said earlier, always measure and monitor your social media goals against the objectives that you have for your organization. I don't know if that answered the question, but hopefully it gives.
So I see there's a few more questions. So somebody asked, I know that this focused on Facebook, but somebody asked, how do you feel about Twitter? Is that a space for businesses and nonprofits? Just what are the trends you see there?
Go ahead, Kim.
Well, David is actually probably a little more literate about Twitter than I am. Twitter is 100% more user heavy with men. So if your target is men, then I would absolutely say make space, to be active on Twitter. It's a little different. The whole feel of it is different. It's short and sweet, and people. It just has a different, there's a happy medium between people writing dissertations that they put on Facebook, and then the character limitations that you have within Twitter. But I would absolutely not eliminate that. Also, for organizations and businesses, associations that are philanthropic, I would absolutely also look into LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is very connective with businesses if you want to connect with people who are capable of supporting and making donations to organizations. So I think LinkedIn is important too.
Yeah, and I think that all the platforms are important. I think Twitter's important, Instagram, LinkedIn, and definitely Facebook. And there's even a couple out there that I'm not using, like WhatsApp and those other things like that.
Right.
But I think that it's okay to give yourself permission as an organization and nonprofit not to be on all of them. I think you evaluate which ones are your audiences on. I think when you do your member relations and you do questionnaires and surveys and you have events, ask, where are you finding your content? Where do you want us to be? Where do you want us to communicate with you? Is it on Twitter? Is it on Facebook? Is it Insta? I mean, Insta is a more visual, and I love Insta stories for sure. And I think it leans really well into what nonprofits the stories they have to tell. So if you're not there, I think you could step it up. For Jubilee Jobs, like I mentioned, we do work for Jubilee Jobs. They are primarily Facebook. We do a little bit of Twitter for them. We made a conscious decision not to take our campaign, our November campaign, to Insta because we have no Insta followers, and we just didn't want to have to build all that out simultaneously. So we're putting our energies to where our audience is and where we can get the most activity. So I would just, find out where your audiences are and go meet them there, but let yourself off the hook. You don't have to be on every single platform.
I will add to that, if someone is actually, taking over a Facebook page that's not particularly, hasn't been successful, if you're trying to build that up, you have the capacity and the ability to link everything that you're doing on Facebook to Insta.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that.
You can't do it retroactively. You can't go back and do that, but you could do it from from that step forward.
Yeah. And then one thing too is that also, real quickly, that starts to become a lot of different platforms, but make sure you're investigating platforms like Hootsuite or Buffer or other social media tools where you can accomplish all those goals in one post versus having to go to multiple platforms. Now, there are character limitations. You have to write to fit, those kinds of things. But there are free and paid platforms where you can bundle all that and do it at once.
Yeah, I know we use Buffer, and that really helps, especially during the challenge, because you have organic things that come up, but then you have things that will be happening different days, and you can go ahead and
I like Buffer. I like Buffer a lot. I like Hootsuite. We use Hootsuite quite a bit. There's others. There's many others.
Sure. So are you seeing any trends in Facebook ads right now? Like what is working best? And so there was a follow-up question. Do you recommend segmenting your audience to test the ads if you have a small budget?
I do recommend segmenting your audience to test. We call it split test. Like right now we have an ad campaign running for an adult healthcare center across Kentucky, and we're doing 2 different ad sets. One where they download a brochure, one where they schedule a home visit, and we're testing to see which one gets more usage and more engagement. So I definitely believe that you can test and then move forward with whichever one has better results. I don't necessarily think I'm seeing any huge trends. I mean, yes, we've spoken to this. Video content, slideshow type, which we call carousel, high engagement.
That's something that I didn't address in that.
High
and
engagement, high engagement, but very easy to produce within Facebook's platform. So, and then post content, just really watch your post content. Sometimes I can't help it, and the post content gets a little bit longer than I want. So I'm always trying to like just even on this campaign, I said, Kim, all the content looks great. Now go back through again and see if there's any words or sentences you can take out to get a little bit shorter. Because if it with Facebook, if it gets too long, it what's that word? Truncates automatically. Truncate automatically, and so you lose a little bit of the messaging. So, but no, visuals, bullets are good in Facebook content, and then also just something to think about. Real add-on here is be very strategic in the automatic buttons you select, whether it's learn more, donate, those kinds of things, because those offer a lot of lift to your messaging as well.
Sorry, I'm still muted. So there's maybe 1 or 2 more questions. How do you balance when you're setting your goals for social media, the different goals within an organization, whether it's stakeholder, marketing, sales? Do you rely on those analytics, or how do you balance those goals?
Well, for me, I have a tendency to approach things more from a marketing standpoint versus an organizational, because I'm usually the outside third party that's consulting with organizations. And so well, I start by just by saying, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to increase membership, increase revenue and donations and support, increase your engagement, or build community, those kinds of things? I sort of try to get all those discovery questions out of the way and really build any kind of campaign or platform off of that. Then I drill down more to marketing perspective and say, okay, we've got this pot of money, this pie of money, resources that we have, based on your audience, where they are, how old they are, what they're interested in, how do we divide that up between proper mediums? Whether it's traditional, print, outdoor, digital, radio, online. And I mean, just like for you, Lauren, as an example, I mean, you and I've had conversations about even the GoodGiving challenge has changed from being outdoor on billboards a few years ago and a lot of print ads to more really online and digital, and really relying on your great associations to do all that organic promoting themselves. I mean, GoodGiving is what it is because of the social media impact. So, I'm hoping that's answering your question, but I mean, I think you just really need to make sure a social media plan is part of your marketing plan, which is part of your strategic plan. All of those are connected. Social media, digital marketing is a piece of the strategy.
I would add to that, just as someone who's worked outside of associations and philanthropic organizations, like most of you all are. I've been involved in retail, and I've been involved in the entertainment and the restaurant industry. A big part of that is just the communication between you all internally. So whoever is administrating the social media, if you're running a promotion, a short-term thing, you really have to communicate internally and know what's actually happening in real time, so you can make adjustments. You can say, okay, we set this ad up with a $50 budget or a $100 budget, which is also something that's really nice that we didn't address when we talked about paid advertising. You can set those budgets ahead of time and say, I only want to spend $100. Let's just see what works. So it's just really being, open and communicative within your own organization, so that you can make the best decision with these dollars that you have to allocate.
All right, thank you guys. I think that is a good place to end it. We have gone a little bit over, but these questions have been so good. And if there's anything, I'm going to review all these after this is over. And if there's anything that we missed, I'll reach out to David and Kim to see if they can help answer those, and I'll send those answers out to y'all.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I took pages of notes. I learned so much today. So I hope that all of you learned something as well. And just as a reminder, I will send this link out to this recording, and I'll include David and Kim's contact information. So you can feel free to ask them any questions as you're digesting all this information, and maybe you might think of something else that didn't come up today. And then again, email me if you have any questions about anything, but related to the challenge, not social media, because they're the real pros on that. Okay. But this was really informative. I learned a lot. I hope you all did too. And I just thank David and Kim for your time, and all of our wonderful organizations for your time as well today. So
thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.